If we really want to get down to it, there really isn't a whole lot of Corpus that we'd really consider heroes. And honestly, I can't really think of one single Corpus hero when we actually really get into thinking about it. The best I can think of are the two neutral ones, Parvos Granum and Freud Beck. Now, of course, a lot of Corpus obviously consider Parvos a hero, but I'm talking about from our standpoint as the player. In which case, we clearly wouldn't consider either of these individuals as heroes, especially since they have both attempted to kill us on numerous occasions. However, there's one individual who you probably didn't think about even when you thought about it really hard. And that individual is, of course, Veso. Veso was built to be forgettable. With every single time he's mentioned in the game by Alad V and later Alad V, his name is said incorrectly. And if the characters in game can't even bother to get his name right or remember, how are we meant to? I also want to say, at this lore channel, we respect Veso, and we will not be saying his name wrong to go along with the meme. One of these days, he will get the respect he deserves from DE and from the fanbase. Maybe this video will finally cause DE to show him respect and have a character get his name right for once in the game. With all the insane scenarios that are now playing out in the Warframe universe, from void magic to traveling back in time, but you aren't really traveling back in time, you're actually traveling to a different dimension or some shit like that, and while all kinds of other insane shit, you might have forgot about the also insane shit that was going on in the story back in 2021, when Ballas was the main villain and the Sentients were once again invading the Origin system under the banner of Narmir. Anyway, a bunch of crazy shit. Anyway, during this invasion is where we get to meet our hero, the legend himself, Veso. You see, during this massive Narmir invasion of the Origin system, the Corpus, Grineer, and the Tenno reached a one-time truce, one where they would all unite and try their best to fight off the Narmir forces. And while this wasn't very successful, however, in this complete and utter failure to defend the Origin system, a lot of individual heroes were made, such as the ever-popular Call, who was willing to sacrifice his life in order to attempt to save his brethren Grineer, who were fighting back against the Narmir forces on Earth. While Call didn't end up actually sacrificing himself, it was instead taken hostage by Era and had a Narmir veil placed on him, his intention was to sacrifice himself. And he earned a ton of respect from the entire Warframe community, and was eventually even given his own game mode, and became a mainstay of Warframe, with him literally being next door neighbors with the Tenno. So you'd think someone who actually sacrificed themselves to fight back against Narmir would probably receive equal treatment and importance. Right? Right? Unfortunately, that evidently is not true when we look at the case of Veso. But before we can get into how he gets disrespected, let's talk about what he actually did. Veso, or full identification as Veso-R, is a first-class Corpus tech who served on a Corpus frigate that was part of one of the Corpus fleets that first engaged in space combat against the forces of Narmir. And unfortunately for Veso, the fleet he served in was under the command of Alad V. Of all the commanders you could be stuck taking orders from in the Corpus, Alad V is probably the literal worst, besides maybe Nefanyo, because he is actually straight up evil and absolutely does not care about the safety, health, or to be honest, existence of his subordinates unless they are in some way benefiting him. He's also not a military genius. Yes, Alad V is a genius, but he does not know how to run a military. So it's already a really bad sign for you if you work for a fleet that is ran by an incompetent commander against the biggest threat to the system to ever exist in modern times. This might cause you to ask the question, why does he even have control of one of the largest Corpus fleets if he's such a shitty leader? Well, that is because he probably owns the entire fleet and purchased it with his own money and refuses to hire someone more competent to run it because of his massive fucking ego. Anyway, I'm saying all of this just to show how dire the situation was for Veso and his fellow Corpus. They were completely outgunned and had an absolutely awful leader giving them orders. To be completely fair to Alad V though, there wasn't really a ton of success being had by any of the generals of either the Grineer or Corpus in this war. I mean, Counselor Vahek seemed to do alright compared to everyone else, and he didn't betray the coalition, which we'll talk about here in a bit. But yeah, no one really did great. Anyway, the frigate that Veso was on was under heavy fire from Narmir ships, and Sentients were actively boarding the ship and killing crew members, and hacking ship systems. This caused the situation aboard the ship to be, well, not very good. It was so bad, in fact, when Alad V was calling for Corpus tech to help break the fire control from the fleet, Veso was literally the only tech aboard the entire frigate that still had communication with his commander.
Fast, to your station's crews. Our glorious victory is close at hand. Oh, and any remaining techs aboard narrow bend me at once.
Confirming tech aboard. Veso-R at your service. Most gilded director.
Yes, Tech Prophet. My command overrides aren't working. I need to break fire control from the fleet. Can you fix that, Vico?
It's Veso, most lucrative and sagacious visionary. Yes, I can try. There's a trace conduit nearby. I can bypass it.
Yes, do your thing. There's a nice bonus in it, if you can.
Obviously, this is normally an override that can be done remotely. However, due to the damage the frigate had suffered and systems that were hacked by the Narmir after they boarded, this task had to be done manually. Now, to be fair, there's a chance other techs heard Alad V and just ignored him because of how dire the situation was, but from what we can tell, Veso was literally the only tech left aboard the entire ship, and the pressure of the task to break the fire control was completely on his shoulders. Alad V informs Veso of where he must go and what he must do, and of course gets his name completely wrong, and is corrected by Veso. While traveling through the ship to reach his destination, wreckage blocks off Veso, and he uses his database to manually take control of a breacher MOA whose entire purpose is to blow up and destroy things. And while Veso uses the robot whose entire purpose is to blow up the wreckage in front of him so he can get through the hallway. Be quiet with your dirty minds. I'm talking about blow up as in destruction, not having the purpose to blow something else. Anyway, I was going to question why you would keep tons of highly explosive MOAs on your spaceship, but I imagine they're no less explosive than the ammo and the guns they're shooting. So I can't really imagine they're that much of a safety hazard, and considering how often explosive suicide drones are used in modern conflict, it lends even more credence to why they would have so many self-destructive drones available on the frigate. So to everyone who was questioning why they were there like I was when I first played the mission, stop asking that question, because it turns out it makes complete sense now that I think about it. What army doesn't have their own horde of suicidal robots? After breaking through the wreckage and running towards the target terminal, Veso realized something terrifying, and that's the fact that the Sentinels had hacked some of the MOAs on board, and they were now actively attacking Corpus crewmen. This is obviously terrifying to Veso, an individual Corpus tech who is even weaker than the average Corpus crewman and far weaker than the robotic soldiers. Veso, realizing he had no chance or hope of cutting through Corpus robotics, informed Alad V of the developing situation.
Veso here. Our robotics have gone rogue. The sentients must have latched the grid.
Someone has. Yes. I'll pull some meat crews to cover you. Just get me that override.
Veso. Right. I've got a data pad, secure robot dispenser access, and a place. Right.
Alad V responded by sending Corpus soldiers to back up Veso, with Alad V, of course, getting his name wrong once again. The scary part of this, though, is that the Corpus soldiers engaged the MOAs with no hope of surviving. They were simply serving as a distraction for Veso while he ran past them to continue the mission. The fact these Corpus were willing to sacrifice their lives for Veso to complete his mission shows how heroic and brave Corpus crewmen can be, and should instill a new amount of respect for the Corpus from everyone. After running past all of his dying crewmates, who were literally dying to create a path for him, Veso finds a station for a shield osprey, and a station for a striker MOA. This greatly improves his chances of reaching the firing terminal. And honestly, Veso starts to get kinda hype, because now he actually has shields to protect himself, and the striker MOA under his control is absolutely melting enemy MOAs and sentients somehow. It really doesn't make sense, but that striker MOA is good as shit. All in all, things are looking up to our boy, Veso, as he blows through the destroyed and falling apart ship. Even though Veso is making good progress at this point, Alad V calls Tico and begins berating him for not disengaging the firing controls quick enough. Veso, finally becoming confused, starts to question why in the hell would they want to disengage the cannons on the frigate. Alad V responds by telling them they're about to be under new management, and that if he continues to question his orders, he'd replace him with someone else.
If I don't stand down fire control soon, we'll all be sucking vacuum. Tico, what's taking so long?
Sir? You want to disengage fire control from the fleet? I don't understand.
Look outside. We're all about to be under new management. Now do your part, or I'll find a more forward-thinking replacement.
Now this threat to replace him was almost certainly an empty one, because as far as we can tell, there's literally no more Corpus techs aboard the ship. But, empty or not, it definitely caused Veso to focus up and hurry up on the firing controls. Veso, with his newfound ass-kicking aura, along with several Corpus crewmen and striker modes, was making easy work of the invaders aboard the ship. However, that was until a jackal jumped in front of him, and blocked his path forward to the ship's firing controls. Alad V questioned his ability to deal with the jackal, as Veso did himself, but in the end, he found a way. He managed to damage the jackal's shields, which allowed him to ultimately make his way around it and make it to the firing controls. While fighting the jackal, however, Alad V made it completely apparent that he was planning to betray the board. They were going to side with the sentients and Narmi.
You see, this is why we need that command override back. The board just can't face reality. So, what's your plan, Tiso?
Plan? You mean I have to? Okay. I guess hit him in the knees? Trigger his attack routine? That should leave his shields vulnerable. In theory.
Clever. Get to it.
Am I a traitor to the board? Yes, sir. Gotta blast those shields while I can. All his power is going to his attack. Shields, vulnerable. Beams, incredibly dangerous.
Just in time, too. Our new management is about to pay a personal visit. Be quick. I've got to stand down fire when they dock with us. Well done, Vico.
Board, claiming that he deserves all the credit for making an effective deal with him. This enrages Veso, who has no interest in betraying the board and his brothers that were fighting back against the sentients, and this rage is only amplified by Alad V constantly treating him with disrespect. This causes Veso to use manual controls to silence Alad V's speech, reactivate the primary cannon, and order those remaining at their stations to prepare to fire on the sentient ship about to dock them. Up to this point, Veso could have made it to the controls, disengaged the ship, and surrendered to the sentients with Alad V, and honestly, still would have been remembered as a legend, even if it wasn't exactly the most moral legend. I mean, he was a Corpus tech, fighting through sentients, MOAs, and a fucking jackal, enemies that even the Tenno would have had difficulty with, and he defeated all of them and accomplished his objective. To me, Veso's story in battle through sentient forces is far more impressive than Call's, especially when you consider that Veso actually ended up making a difference when he decided to fire on the sentient ship, which is ultimately what he decided to do as he ordered the Corpus frigate to fire its main cannon directly into the sentient ship. Normally, this main cannon fire probably wouldn't have been anywhere close enough to powerful to destroy a sentient Murex. However, because it was attempting to board the Corpus frigate, the cannon fire bypassed its defenses and ended up destroying the entire Murex. Due to the frigate being extremely damaged already, and right next to the exploding megaship, Veso's frigate was completely destroyed, killing everyone on board. Now that is a hero's death, especially since Veso is one of the few characters shown to actually make the difference in the beginning of the Narmir War that wasn't just the Tenno. Like, besides the Tenno, no one was doing shit in this war. But Veso showed up with the ship and the crewmen around him, and they managed to actually destroy a Murex, which is extremely impressive and beneficial to the Coalition.
Attention, crew. Stand down. All stations. You'll be pleased to know that I, Alad V, have negotiated a peaceful and profitable transfer of power to our new
Fleet control. Fire and sync re-engaged. Authorization? Corpus Tech First Class Veso-R. Take your shot. For profit.
Now it's time to dump some cold water on all of this, which is a pretty depressing way to go about this. Veso was extremely impressive and was for sure a character who made a difference in the war by leading the way to defeating a Murex. However, it really didn't change much at all. Narmir still easily defeated the Origin System Coalition, and losing just one Murex really didn't slow them down at all. It was still complete domination by Narmir. Now maybe if every frigate could have taken out a Murex, the Coalition would have won, but also would have made Veso's sacrifice a little bit less special. So I mean, it's whatever. But yeah, in the end, Veso's sacrifice was more of a figurehead than an actual defining moment in the war. And unfortunately for him, pretty much everyone forgot about his sacrifice, and those who remembered didn't even remember his name. So yeah, I mean, it really sucks for Veso, especially seeing how much love Call got. I mean, Call chills next to Tenno now, has a hot, terrifying, disgusting girlfriend who actually isn't attracted at all, which is, you know, fair, since Call's face is also slowly falling off. He's not very attractive either. And has an entire subset of missions and content based around him and his exploits against the remnants of Narmir. I mean, Call got everything after the New War was over, and Veso got a voice line where an unimportant character got his name wrong. So let's be honest here, guys. Veso wasn't that important to the story of the New War, but he was a complete badass and deserves more respect than he gets in my personal opinion. I mean, he is legitimately one of the most forgotten about characters in the game, and we literally fucking played as him. I think we've all played as maybe 3 different characters besides our Tenno throughout the entirety of Warframe. I'm like drawing blanks, so let me know in the comments below all the characters we played as, but it's really not that many, especially for how long of a game Warframe is. And it's funny to me that one of the ones we played as is so completely unimportant and forgotten about, unless they're being used as a joke about how unimportant and forgotten about they are. Now, I'm not saying we should all stop making fun of Veso, or that the memes around him are bad or not funny, because they aren't. They are funny, and I really don't care. But I do talk about lore here on this channel, and Veso is someone that needed to be covered and respected as one of the few true heroes in the Warframe universe. Anyway, huge shout out to my members, Panagoides, Tantanoises, Jay, and SignUpKing5000. And that's all I have for this video. Stay blessed, show support by liking and subscribing if you enjoyed the video. I hope to see everyone back in the next video. And this is a fun fact for everyone that stayed at the end of this video. I was saying Veso so much in this script that I got to the point where I was emphasizing every time I said Veso, where I went Veso, Veso, Veso. And if that annoyed you, I apologize. But if you thought it was funny, I hope you thought it was funny. But I just said his name so many damn times and my brain started like fucking dying. Anyway, I don't know why I should have not used his name so much in this script. That's my fault. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Peace out, stay blessed, stay happy. Hope to see you guys in the next one. And respect to Veso.